The dungeon you are sitting in now, the door is not locked, right? But it requires that you, like, it's scary on the other side. You don't know what's out there.
Right.
But it requires you start to stand up, you walk out that door, you open that cage, and you live.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Caroline Howard, a biblical counselor and certified life breakthrough coach.
And I'm Chris Oneth, marriage and family therapist and executive director of Downey Park Counseling Associates.
Welcome to Our Next Question, where we attempt to answer the questions of life through conversations in psychology and Christianity.
Remember, this is a place of discovery and definitely not the final answer.
We came back.
We're here. Here we are.
Still.
Caroline's not wearing glasses, so I can't even tell who she is.
You see me more without my glasses
true.
than with
I don't
my
know what I was
glasses.
talking about again. This is episode 2 of How We Change. No, How Do We Change? That's it.
And look at us still working on a title.
Caleb was giving me the evil eye, or the discipline. It's like,
We've disappointed
Caleb's
our dad.
looking at me in the eye. It's this one. Yeah, as I tell people.
We're talking
Okay.
about change.
So last episode, what we're gonna? I think because we're so international, we are ready for sponsors.
Woohoo!
So
We'll take international sponsors.
there you go. Who would you like to be sponsored by, Caroline?
Dr. Pepper.
No. Dr. Pepper. How about the Giants?
The Giants.
The official podcast
Oh
of
my
the Giants.
gosh.
Yeah. Somebody
Somebody
forward this to the Giants.
So yeah, please someone if you know anybody who works at the Giants.
I know a
please
guy
forward this.
who knows a guy who knows a guy. No,
Perfect.
I wish I
I mean,
do.
we'll take it as long as it gets there. It gets to Gabe Kapler. You know, you looking for a biblical counselor for the Giants?
Oh, there you
down.
go.
I'll come
Awesome.
in there and do some
Awesome.
counseling for some sponsorship.
You're looking
Who
for a
would-
guy to carry your bag? This guy.
I
If
actually
I can get the free games, I'd be all over it.
I want to work on the field.
That would be
I do.
awesome.
So there is a gal, and I need to look her up and know her name. I have a total girl crush on her. I totally fangirl her every time we're there. We go early because the boys like to watch practice
So
beforehand.
what's her name?
I don't know her name. I need to look her up.
Hey,
But she is the
girl!
only girl, and so she's always there, and she is out there, and she is a badass. And yes, I said it.
There you did
She
it.
is out there doing the chalk line,
Nice.
doing the bases, and I literally everyone else is watching the players, and I am watching her in awe, and I'm like, I want to be her. I want her job.
So that's funny you say. So I am a total experience guy.
Yeah.
So I would gladly do stuff for free just to experience.
Good experience.
So when I was a teacher, I had a week where I worked for juvenile probation.
Oh,
And it was a program called SPI, Stanislaus Partners in Education.
Okay.
And essentially we got a stipend of like a certain amount of money for the week.
okay.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was my summer.
Okay.
So I showed up every day for a week at juvenile probation and worked alongside great people.
That's cool.
And the stipulation was that we would do that as teachers. We would do this and then write about it and bring the experience back into the classroom. And I was the type of teacher where I bring every experience back into the classroom.
That's
one
cool.
time I was riding my bike to school. What I used to and I used to cross railroad tracks, and I was a little bit late, and I couldn't cross railroad tracks because lo and behold there was a train.
No.
So I actually had to get off my bike and run alongside the train and then pedal alongside the train. It was crazy. And I got to tell that story once I got to the kids. And then, like an hour into the day, I got to finally get into the lesson. No, but
kind of like how we do.
each class was 45
kind of like how we
minutes.
do on this podcast every episode.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, who would you want to be our sponsor?
Guy, man, there's so many things. Triumph Motorcycles, Santa Cruz Bicycles, not Dr. Pepper. I don't know.
Should we name some local places who might actually want to sponsor us?
Absolutely.
Culture Coffee.
Culture Coffee.
Yeah.
Culture Coffee. You like that? Yeah.
Noah's Barbecue. Have you ever had Noah's Barbecue? You
I
guys?
don't think I have.
They are at Farmers Market every Thursday and Saturday.
I
And
would like Hank at Food Fix to sponsor us. My
Okay.
daughter,
Food
daughter
Fix.
works
There
for
you go.
Food Fix.
Food
It's a
Fix is
great place to eat. I
Okay.
wouldn't mind. I love a good craft beer and a nice meal.
Yes, we do know this
So
about you.
wherever we find that,
Okay.
ranch hand in Houston.
Oh, there you go, Ranch Hand. We go
Shout
there.
out.
Shout out
Yeah,
to
because
Ranch
we
Hand.
took you.
We're very food focused.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The very first time I went there was not with you.
Well,
I
then
had been there
certainly
before.
it
Not because you took me.
Certainly was an
We
accident.
should go tonight. Caleb, who would you want?
Well, I was sitting here thinking about it. I was thinking not local though.
Okay,
What
go
popped
not
into my
local.
head
What's
is
wrong with you?
I think we should be sponsored by the state of Hawaii.
Ooh.
Oh,
You know, even though we're not in Hawaii, I just think then we would have to make some trips
We
over
would,
there. to
and we
look
could ride
out.
them all.
Oh, that's a good point. Sponsored by
like how
out-of-state things, and then
Caleb
it's
is
like, well, it's
thinking.
another business trip.
Lamborghini, you want to sponsor us? I'll try one of your
Cager.
cars.
BMW and Triumph. There you go.
Okay, anybody
Awesome.
else besides Hawaii?
That's the only one I
That
can
was
think
what
of.
you were on.
That's it.
Anything local?
Well,
I don't know.
You got nothing.
oh, you
Okay.
snob.
Yeah, just Hawaii. That's all I want.
There you go. He's clamoring for
I
Hawaii.
think
Anybody wants to
Caleb needs a
sponsor Caleb to
vacation.
Hawaii?
Very
Anybody
true.
wants
I've
to-
never
yeah.
been, and I really want to go.
I
He'll
could just
carry your bags.
yes. Toyota.
Toyota.
There you
Let's
go.
go places.
There, that's it.
I
My Tundra.
guess,
Subway, eat fresh.
Yes. Okay. So because I have a special needs daughter, she's 25.
Okay.
But she knows every
Ad.
every tagline of places.
that's
so we
so-
drive by CarMax and she's like, Toyota, let's go places.
I feel like now we've stumbled into another question, which is what's our tagline?
Oh.
Our next question.
Okay, we'll get on. We'll get. Hey,
When you're here, your family.
Our next question, we'll get to it eventually.
That's good.
yes.
Oh, we're going to come up with a tagline. We're going to have a tagline.
Okay, that's a good idea. So that is our
I
next
thought
project.
it was our next question with Caroline and Chris.
So
but
back to change. So last time we talked about individual change, relational change,
Yeah, all
environmental change, that head change versus heart change, or you said heart transformation.
yeah.
Okay.
Heart change, heart transformation, it's the same thing.
So this brings up all sorts of other aspects of change. And I think we answered the question, do I change me or change others?
Right.
Okay. The better bet is changing yourself.
Well, you can't change others, so of course
But
that would be
that
the
will
better
not
bet.
stop us from trying.
It won't, but
Can we invite change in others? Obviously, they have to make the decisions themselves.
well,
But
of course you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Well, and I think inviting change is having a conversation like when you do this, this is what it means to me.
Right.
Here's the effect it has. And so that opens up a discussion. And, in relationships, we do move a little for the better. If you have one person in a relationship doing all the moving, that could be a difficulty. And so then other movement needs to take place.
Yeah.
A lot of times people quote unquote change or move, and I hate to say this, but maybe not in the healthiest direction. So
Yeah.
they say, I'm doing all this stuff, but maybe it's kind of not the most effective stuff.
Or you're doing the easy stuff for you, and
Well,
you don't
hold
want
on
to
now. No, because it can be difficult. Like, here's an example.
Okay, give me an example.
Oh, yes.
Oh gosh,
You walked right into that one. So
I'm walking back out, backpedaling.
so husbands, well, I will find
Did you hear that sigh? I didn't mean to.
husbands
sigh,
will work hard. I mean, they will, work, a 12-hour day. They will try to do a bunch of things for the wife, and then their wife is like, "That's not it," and the guy's like, "I'm working my butt off," and that is true.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the analogy of a plant. I say it's like you have this plant, and you're bringing, and I think I've already said this on this podcast, but it's like you're bringing the plant like chocolates and cards and jewelry and all this stuff, and the plant is dying.
That's nice.
The plant is dying because that's not what the plant needs. If you listen to the plant could tell you, hey, I need water and soil and amendments and all this other stuff so in the same way in relationship,
Yes,
right? And I'm not
yes.
sure how we got on this.
See, then that makes me want to go into love languages. Well,
Well,
or,
okay. Well, how did we even get to this example? Because you asked me something.
Oh,
I think
change.
yeah.
No, because you were like, you walked into that. See, I backpedaled and you forgot.
No.
Because I said you change and you do the easy thing.
Okay, so yes, you're right. Thank you so much.
I know I'm
so,
right.
So that is those are hard things that people are trying to do, but it's just not necessarily in the right direction.
Correct.
So be careful to say the easy thing.
Okay, I hear you. You. And I think when I say that, I think I say it under the eyes of like, the person's been told this is what I need, or this is what you do that bothers me. Could you work on that? And like you said, they go over here and they do this because doing this is too hard. But hey, maybe if I do these things, she'll be happy enough and I don't have to do this big thing.
But then that comes right back to us. Do we do the easier thing for us? Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not preaching to. I'm preaching to myself, man.
Yeah.
I always say in sessions with clients or anytime, I'm like, I wish I should just have a mirror in front of me because I am literally talking to myself all the time.
So that that gets me into the other
air.
So it wasn't an argument; it was a death. So if you want to know more clue on that, listen to the prior episode. Okay. So that gets it. So oftentimes then in order to not change, we will focus heavily on others changing so we don't have to.
Yeah.
And that could be a protection mechanism, which is something we need to be aware of.
Right.
Or even, I can't change. No, it's my environment really that needs to change.
Yeah.
And so that even happens in a lot of political movements where the politician will say, no, it's your environment. I mean, no wonder you're not successful.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. And that really disempowers the individual. And the irony there is that the politician could be saying, I can give you power, when that was never the case.
Right.
So now this gets us even into the ideas of what if and if only. Now,
what if and if only?
And if only. That can be very depression and anxiety. What if is anxiety oriented, if only is depression oriented. However, there's a certain amount of what if and if only that could be healthy.
Okay.
In order to bring about change, right? What if we fix up this room and had it looking like, not this room, but
right, because your wife already made this room beautiful.
Absolutely. But for my wife and I, it's like the boys' room was thrashed when they eventually left, when we changed the locks and they couldn't get back in anymore.
Yes.
Right. And so we were like, oh my gosh. So we took, I built this loft bed for my son Elijah, and we took that thing. Oh, and it was kind of sad because it had writing on it and stuff like that. So we took that sucker apart and threw it out the back. But essentially we looked at the room and said, what if we did this? That's healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if only, if like, I should have done that and not this. The problem is when we dwell in those and park in those and don't do anything about it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's where it becomes unhealthy.
Right.
So
it's a what if, now do some action.
Yes.
If only, now move forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's another aspect or a little shade of change that we could be talking about. Okay. So the parts of ourself, emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, have every bit to do with true change. They do not act alone. Mm-hmm. There is not necessarily one that comes first. And so I thought we'd talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So they do not, so you say like, there's not necessarily one that comes first, but could you say changing one will change it all?
So changing one will help, but if you only change one and not move to the others, then you will revert right back to your prior behavior or your prior action or your prior attitude.
Okay. But it's like a momentum thing. If I change this one,
I think so. Absolutely it is.
This environment, it's naturally gonna, like the will is just gonna keep going.
Yeah, and so I guess the analogy I use there is if I want to get up in the morning to go to the gym, what I do is I prepare the night before. I lay everything out so it is streamlined, and I'm not. It's this actually more about me getting on the bike and riding in the morning than the gym. The gym, I just jump out of bed, put on some shorts, and I'm gone.
Yeah.
But for the bike, it needs to be prepared. I have to make sure the tires are filled. I have to make sure the chain is, it's all in working order. because otherwise I'll stay in bed and be like, yeah, but I have to do this and this and the other thing. And then I drift off again and another 45 minutes has gone by.
Yeah.
So if I have prepared, then this is interesting, because if I have prepared the bike the night before, when I am in a state of mind to say, yes, I want to do this, then I have already mentally started to go there. And so when the alarm goes off the next morning, the bike is waiting for me, and I just need to jump on it and start pedaling. And that makes it all much easier. So when it comes to an emotional component of change, essentially what happens is I do not like the way things are going for me, and I want it to change. In other words, these emotions that are created in me are not pleasant.
Yeah.
So then how do I go about, the feelings can be, I feel stuck, I feel bad, frustrated, ashamed, right? So then how do I get to a place where the emotions I am experiencing are emotions I want to have, or I want more of? And by the way, feeling stuck and feeling bad aren't bad.
Right.
It's just telling us something needs to change.
Yeah. That's good. See, say that again.
Feeling stuck and bad aren't bad. It's just telling us we need to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's your little red flag.
There you go. Hey, I'm frustrated at this. Okay.
Yeah.
What are some things I can do? Yes, it's because of what this person is doing, but what are some things I can do to make it different?
Right. Right. When your truck, heaven forbid, gets stuck in the mud.
And it does.
You don't look and just go, "Oh, that's stuck in the mud," and walk away from it. I'll just go buy I'll just go buy a new truck. You look for how to get it out of the mud.
Well,
and change
challenge
the situation.
accepted. That's what happens.
Right.
I'm hooking on to stuff. Actually, my on my property, my truck got stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
And I could have got my little teeny tractor to help pull it out, but instead I called my son, who has a Ford. So he came and pulled me out.
Oh, nice. I hope you got pictures.
Oh, he was so happy. He was so happy.
I bet.
So anyway, well, his truck is nicer than mine now. Don't let my truck hear that. The feeling, so when it comes to emotions, the feeling of desire to change isn't enough.
Right.
There is a desire. There needs to be desire. There needs to be hardship. There needs to be difficulty. But then there needs to be an imagination where the possibility is there's a feeling of hope potentially. Mm-hmm. And that may be tie into the other aspect of ourself, and that is spiritual.
Yeah.
So in the spiritual aspect of change, we need to have a reason and a purpose to change. If we simply have some, and it can be, well, my reason and my purpose is because I don't like my job, or I'm combating with my spouse too much, or maybe they're just telling me and I'm trying to ignore it.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the spirituality of it is that I want to be a better person, or that I'm reading scripture and God is convicting me.
I mean, that's always a good reason to change.
Right. I want to. Absolutely. You don't say. I want to align with my values. If I say that I want to be a faithful husband, well, then I want to act accordingly and not, look at every girl that walks down the street.
Right.
I want to see what my spouse sees if I don't. Right. And there's been times in my marriage where Mel says, Chris, you got to be careful of this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, I don't see it, but I trust her.
Yeah.
Right. Or we want to care about the same thing. Like, for example, I put down cleaning the house, right? If she's like super like, no, I want the house to be clean, and I'm like, meh, or I just leave stuff, well, then I'm essentially telling her, you take care of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Dirty dog.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Golly. Ugh.
The hamper's right there. Just put your socks in the hamper.
And sadly enough, I remember I was raised by a single mom, so I remember mom, and I would do the yard work, kind of.
Okay.
But I was still a teenager, so I'd totally, excuse the expression, half-ass it.
Yeah.
And mom was like, Chris, I want you to care about the work you do and stuff like that. And it just didn't occur to me. It didn't compute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until, of course, I got stuff of my own.
Right. Because you're not going to care unless someone, how do I care? You can't just tell a kid. Care.
Right. It has to have deeper meaning.
It does. It has to have value to you.
Right. So
if you don't value it, you're not going to be motivated by it.
And there is a spiritual aspect there, the value of it. So we've talked about emotional, we talked about spiritual, but guess what? Spiritual or meaning to do something is not enough.
Yeah.
To change. The other aspect is mental, right? Emotional, spiritual, mental. So mental is an area where, yes, it makes sense to me that change is needed. So we've had clients before. Well, I'll say me. I've had clients before in couples where the guy. Okay, I'll pick on the dude because I'm a dude. I'll pick on the dude. The guy is like, I see what I'm doing is wrong. I see this is not cool, but I tell me how to fix it. He wants to fix it, but he's not emotional at all.
Yeah.
So he cannot empathize with his wife.
Right.
So it doesn't hold the weight of meaning for him that really will enact change.
Whereas you want him to come in and say, I see this is hurting her and I don't want to hurt her any longer.
Exactly. In other words, I want him to be hurt over the hurt he's caused.
Yes.
That is a huge movement.
Yes.
Because, again, intellectually, we can get something. Oh, it makes sense to me that, right? When I go to work and I shout at my employees, it makes sense to me that they wouldn't want that. But until I put myself in their shoes and the fear that might be enacted or, of losing the job or whatever, then I really don't know.
Yeah. So it's not just noticing that the other person's hurt. I see that they're hurt, so I need to change it. It's I see that they're hurt and that hurts me. You have to have that
I
other
get that.
aspect of
I
it.
understand
and
that.
And now I'm feeling that pain.
Now, the irony there is if we have people in relationships that do like punish people in that way, like they yell at them, scream at them, I will bet 99 times out of 10, the same behavior has done toward them.
Yeah.
They hated it, but they've forgotten. In other words, they've cut themselves off emotionally. And so, because they didn't want to think about that pain. And so then when they get frustrated, they think, they just act on their frustration and yell and scream without going back to that place of, what did it feel like for me?
Right.
So,
right.
So again, with the mental, it makes sense to me. I can see the steps I must take in order to change. In other words, I could do this, this, this. That is very much needed. I have a plan to begin to change. So oftentimes in our plans to change, what happens is we have this general idea. We have this notion, change. Like I am going to, oh my gosh, this totally had a flashback. So Dolvet Quince. There's a name you can look up. No, Mel and I used to watch The Biggest Loser.
Oh, yeah. I remember that show.
And it was really interesting. It wasn't just about losing weight, of course. It was about the attitudes that went into it. And you saw some of the contestants had great attitudes. And some of the, let me back up. Some of them had you can just tell they were just doing it just because they were told to. Others had a deep understanding. I mean, they would and they would totally put... And your feelings about this, I get it. They would put donuts in front of them and say, okay, if you eat a donut, we'll give you 5 extra pounds for this particular contest or whatever. Dang. And people, and listen, those are the games our heads play when we're trying to lose weight.
Right.
So they were putting them in situations where you're going to have to build a resistance to this anyway. So, contestants would, and there was this one gal who said, she was like, I don't need anything that's on that plate. And it was like, she gets it. She changed. Yeah. Right. And there was no amount of hey, do this, do that was going to sway her. And she was spot on. Anyway, cool. Back to Dolvet. Okay. This guy was buffed. He probably still is. Great shape. And I would always say to myself, I want to look like that guy. I want to look like that guy. And Melanie invariably would say, Chris, you can.
Good for her.
But I was like, okay. So there's this idea where we get a notion of change.
Yeah.
In other words, I would like to look like that. And we carry that around. I'd like to. But then we don't do anything about it.
Right.
And so I call that neutral talk. There's positive talk, which is come on, I'm going to do it. And I do it. Or there's positive talk where, Chris, you're talented, you're able, you're capable. Yay. You're obviously ruggedly handsome. Crickets. So that's positive talk. Negative talk is, you're an idiot. Nobody likes baldness. You really can't see all this other stuff. You shouldn't be riding a motorcycle. Negative talk, right?
Right.
But then, which is obviously negative.
Yeah.
Neutral talk looks positive, but there's a negative outcome.
Okay.
So neutral talk is, I have a plan. Yeah, this is going to be, I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to change. And then nothing happens. And so we feel the weight of disappointment, back to bad emotions, right? Excuse me, not bad emotions, but difficult emotions. We feel the weight of disappointment that weighs on us, and that keeps us down even further.
Yeah.
So this whole idea is like, I could totally look like Bill Vet. Well, honestly, I could. I just don't do anything to get there.
Right. He had to do a lot to get there.
He did.
He
And that's
doesn't
not
just
fair.
Wake up like that.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
day.
You know, roll out of bed and
I mean, that's
here
the
it
thing.
is.
That's what we think. Like, oh, they just look like that. And
Well, and that's a great point, because it gets back to this magical thinking that says other people have ingredients or access to things that I don't have,
yeah.
which is a huge barrier to change.
Yes. Yeah.
Somehow have some sort of gifting
Mm-hmm.
that God has given you that I don't have. And listen, mom had a friend. I'm not going to name any names. But she had heard that I had gone to school. So when I went to school, when I got my bachelor's, I worked full time and I had a family. When I got my master's, I worked full time and had a family.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, climbing the rock, staircase. It
Yeah.
was not easy. And I had one of mom's friends to me saying, "Oh, that's so great that you got your master's. I wish I had the opportunity to do that." And of course, she was speaking from her own limitations.
Yeah.
And the idea that she somehow didn't have the ingredients needed.
Yeah.
And potentially, yeah, she didn't. But that idea also comes with it that somehow there was some sort of advantage that I have that fell into my lap. And it was like, oh, okay. At least that's the way I interpret it. I could be wrong.
Right.
So mental is knowing what you need to do, coming up with step plans, all this other stuff, knowing you need to change, all that other stuff.
Yep.
But knowing is not enough. So we've talked about the emotional.
Yep.
We've talked about the spiritual. Well, we've talked about the emotional, which is not enough. We talked about the spiritual, which is not enough. We talked about the mental, which is not enough. The final is physical. And that is actually doing the different thing.
Yeah.
And boy, howdy.
That's the hard part.
That is embodied change.
Yep.
In other words, I start to move in this direction. It is something I start to step forward in and listen. There's all kinds of reasons why we don't step forward. I can't do that because of this. I can't do that. Yeah. And we create this wall that we think, well, I can't get through that. But the fact is, it's not a wall. It's a curtain that looks like a wall. I've said that many times. Mm-hmm. And if we go up and start to push on a little bit, we will find that it will give. And so it's stepping forward and creating a new path.
So, well, that's funny you just said that, because I was just thinking that, like the neural pathways, right? And when I always try to tell people who need to change, who make a change, whether it's a habit or whatever it is like, it is a lot of work, because you're going from what you were doing, which has created this rut in your, literally like a rut in your brain, that neural pathway.
Yes.
You have to fill that rut in.
Yes.
Which takes time. And then start to create that new rut.
Absolutely.
Which takes time. So it is work, but it is worth it.
So I would say one does the other. When you create the one rut,
it's like
you can empty into the old rut, right? And hope to fill it. So stepping forward. So believe it or not, and this is like behavior change, but it may not necessarily require conviction, emotions, and a plan to begin with, right? Okay. And that's where we came about behavior change versus heart change.
Right.
Absolutely, heart change needs to take place.
Yeah.
But in some cases, simply starting to step forward then strengthens the idea that, oh, this is what change feels like. This is the good part.
Yeah.
We had a little discussion prior to this podcast about fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Caroline just doesn't like that saying.
Caroline needs to stop talking about herself in the third person. No.
I thought that same thing as soon as I said it.
That's so funny.
Like,
no, I didn't know.
Talking about yourself. I am not a believer of the statement "fake it till you make it."
So many things require a grain of truth, right? I do not believe "fake it till you make it" will sustain anything. No. But I also believe the idea that I can do this and starting to step forward will enact change. And that's how I translate fake it till you make it.
No,
In
but
other
see,
words,
that's not faking it. That's
I've
real,
been
'cause
faking
you're
this counseling gig for a while. And
you haven't made it yet.
Ow. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Is this the fight?
This
Just
is
waiting
it.
for
We're
the
living
fight. No, because I mean, and that was kind of like the argument is, and I hear what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I just then think, to me, verbiage matters.
Yes.
Then let's choose another word to fake it, because we're not faking it. We're actually doing something to get to the process of making it.
Yeah. So this
come up with a new
behavior
thing?
change actually happens a lot in drug programs. You know, they lock people down. They get them off the substance. That is a behavior change.
Yes.
That enables them to start to have their potential faculties come on board to where they can think clearly. Now they have the capacity to start to deal with their emotional and mental issues that turn them to drugs in the first place.
If they so choose and are taught to
Absolutely, but that's not going to happen if the behavior change doesn't take
Right.
place first.
Right.
So that's
Right.
one
with
example.
a behavior like that, yeah, because it is messing with your head and your brain.
All of our
and-
behaviors mess with our head.
Well, that's true.
So
My Dr. Pepper doesn't.
absolutely it does. It's poisoning you as we speak.
No,
Please.
They're
there
never
are-
going to sponsor us now, Chris. Come on.
There are
Oh man,
100
I've
year-
just given it up.
You know, y'all have seen that video of the 100-something-year-old woman who drinks. She drinks 3 Dr. Peppers every day, and she's like, "My doctor told me
Wow.
this stuff. I've had doctors tell me this stuff
Pepper.
is gonna kill me. Oh, those doctors are dead, and I'm still alive." So, that's,
Showed them.
that's gonna be me.
Then I apologize, Dr. Pepper.
Thank
You
you.
obviously your medical degree has carried you
Served
through the
them
day. Absolutely. Whatever. So emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, they're all tied together,
Okay.
especially at the deepest level. All 4 are needed.
Yeah.
It totally, and they feed on each other and they support each other.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, there you have it. I guess my next question I wrote down was, what prohibits change? Bad attitudes.
Well, that's when I would say, like, that's when the pride and all of that comes into play.
So what do you mean by pride?
Well, our pride can keep us from change. I don't need to change. I'm fine the way I am.
Okay. That to me is just avoidance. I mean, if we call it pride, but yeah, avoidance.
Well,
It's fear.
I'm a biblical counselor. I go to the biblical words, not the
Oh,
psychological
yes.
words.
You got to keep that, stay in that box.
'Cause, yeah, you know me, I stay in boxes.
So I think what prohibits change? Yes, absolutely. And pride is the idea that not even necessarily. It can be, yeah, that I'm okay the way I am, but I've had people experience pride in saying, no one's going to help me through this. I've got to do it myself.
Right, which is a form of pride.
But it's almost there's a shame element to it. Like, I've screwed myself up. Only I can get myself out, which is not true.
Yeah.
Because God totally wants to
Yeah.
carry us. You know.
It's too hard. I can't do this.
Oh, it's scary as heck.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
yeah, all that
All
is
those
like
things.
fear-based and avoidance and all this other stuff. So we can prohibit change in ourselves when we do not implement all 4 components of self and realize that they are all at play.
Yeah.
Right. We also prohibit change in relationships when we don't change ourselves. We've just mentioned that several times. The same is true for our environment. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
How are we doing on time?
We're doing great on time because you were going to talk about 3 parts too.
Ugh, okay.
Do you want to go into your 3 parts?
Sure.
Okay.
Unless you have something to say.
No, I'm just tagging along right now.
Along for the ride.
Well, I mean, I don't want to stay in my box now that you said that. That wasn't very nice.
I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. The way you interpreted it. I'm sorry for the way.
Look at how much we.
That was weird.
Look at how we grow.
That wasn't even a real apology. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. No, I want to go back really quick to just the heart transformation versus behavior modification stuff. And just to bring some verses in there of why, like,
Love it.
getting to the root, working on the heart is so good, is so important. And part of that, like, is you go back to Matthew 5 when Jesus talks about murder and adultery. And he says, right, if we murder someone in our mind or we lust after someone in our heart or in our mind, we're just as guilty.
Sure.
So he says it's just not the outward act that makes you guilty.
Right.
It's what's going on inside of the
Yes.
heart as well. And then Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart above all else for it determines the course of your life.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Those are just a little biblical.
As far as
super out there.
the heart is concerned, it's interesting. Even when you say murder or lust,
Yeah.
then like my response to that is like looking into where the murderous intent comes from or the lust comes from. Look at why the lust is being used, because oftentimes it's to cover something else, right? So even the behavior that we need to change is a vehicle by which we are trying to cover something else.
Yeah.
And we can be scared of letting go of that particular drug in the behavior that we're doing.
Yep.
And so we're like, no, I don't need to do it. We avoid recognizing we need to change.
Yeah.
And
when you work on heart transformation versus behavior modification, both are needed, right? But when we work on that heart transformation, I think it automatically brings you to a place of humility and selflessness, as it gives you that greater sense of how desperately we need the grace of God in our lives.
Right. So what brings about the heart transformation? What presents to someone that they need to transform their heart?
Bad behaviors.
Well, okay, but if they don't see it as bad behaviors, what's the problem?
Well, I mean, that's right. That would be the issue, right? That how do you know if your behavior is bad?
Right.
Right? Is it hurting you? Is it hurting others? Is it hurting your relationships?
Right. Well, if it's hurting others, that's their problem.
You're a jerk.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I know. You're
would
right.
say,
And then in that sense, right? That is your. Again, I will go back to pride, but it's all that. It's the delusional thing. It's the...
It is a delusion.
And here's the thing. Some people are going to be like that, and they're
Yes.
going to be like, screw you. And I can think of people like that. I'm not going to change. You don't like me how I am?
Yeah.
That's your problem. There's the door. And in that case, right? Because we can't change others, we change our environment and our relationship with that person.
Great point. So I would say one of the main things that brings about the idea that we need to change is a royal ass whooping.
Yeah, sometimes we do need that.
When we are at the end of our rope, when our relationships are broken, when we can't seem to function in this world, when it gets so bad, in other words, our own, for what the addiction community calls rock bottom.
Yeah.
When we've decided, after my third or fourth wife, I realized,
maybe I'm the problem.
Maybe I've been part of the cloudy. Anyway, yeah. So now, finally, we come to the 3 big hurdles to change.
Okay.
First big hurdle
like
is
hurdles.
What's that?
I was never good at hurdles. I did track one year.
They always scared the crap out of me.
Why are you all laughing when I said it? No, it is funny.
The hurdles scare the crap out of me.
Oh, my daughter Emma, she was I loved watching her do hurdles.
Wow.
It was beautiful. Me, I don't think I ever got over it. I literally never got over one.
Why would you even try if you thought I'm not going to do this?
Into it, and I was.
So
I was
she
too
must.
scared.
It must be Chris.
Chris he's
and
definitely the more
genetic
athletic.
Pool.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
then.
way more athletic. I was a cheerleader.
Oh, there you go. Super not athletic.
Cheerleaders need athleticism as well. Back in my day, and I went to private school, not so much.
Wait a second. Are you? I assume what you mean by that is the talent pool at the private school is so small.
Yes.
There you have it. So
I'm so sorry, fellow cheerleaders at my
that's so
school
funny.
if you're listening.
Speaking of track and field, I probably already said this before, but I always thought it would be more fascinating if they had like swinging sandbags while people were, just something like a steeplechase where they're hopping over moats and alligators. And anyway,
I think they do have those, like the Highland Games or something
there
like
you
that.
go. I love it. Okay, let's close out with 3 hurdles to change. So the 3 hurdles to change, and each hurdle gets bigger. Each hurdle is bigger than the next.
So fun. Thanks for saving the best for last.
The first hurdle is knowing I need to change. It's me. Me.
So taking responsibility.
Exactly. Taking responsibility. So obviously it's emotional, spiritual. It requires conviction and all that stuff, right? Second hurdle is knowing what to do or what actions to take.
Okay.
Right? Bigger than the first hurdle.
Okay.
What actions to take? Because people come to the counseling session with, I want to change and I got to do this and I got to do that. And I'll be like, well, you could try this and this and this and this and this and this. Great. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
well, you could try this and this and this and this. Okay, great. Tell me what to do. Yeah, and it becomes a broken record because there's this huge fear. Now, what we get caught up in is we think knowing what to do and knowing that we need to change, we think that's change.
Yeah. Oh, I know I need to change. I'm good. I just got to go like this and this and this.
Oh, it's totally. And that's why the self-help book industry does so well.
Yeah.
Because they will tell you, this is what you do. This and we loop back to, oh, but I could change this and this and this, and I can do this. Yeah, but I also need to change this and this and this, and I can do this and this, because all of that is about avoiding the third and greatest hurdle of all.
Which, well, I was going to say with that, it's like getting the head knowledge but never transferring it to your heart.
Yeah.
And transferring it to your heart will then produce the third one.
Oh. Actually doing something different.
Yeah. Taking some
moving
action.
forward in a different way of thought, a different way of feeling, a different stepping forward, right? And it's unfamiliar and it's uncomfortable, but guess what? It has to be. And
so
that's okay.
Right?
That's okay.
You're digging a new rut. It's going to be uncomfortable.
Because the dungeon you are sitting in now, the door is not locked. Yeah. Right? But it requires that you it's scary on the other side. You don't know what's out there.
Right.
But it requires you start to stand up, you walk out that door, you open that cage, and you live.
Yeah. So this is the two things I guarantee would change, and I always tell this to new clients. The two things I'm going to guarantee you in counseling as you move through this and you change is, one, it is going to get way harder before it gets better.
Yeah.
And two, you work through that hard, and I guarantee you it gets better.
I am going to steal that.
No.
I've already. It's too late. It's too late.
Well, and then I always add, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
I want to walk the road of hard and change with people so that no one has to walk it alone.
No wonder you're busy.
I've had to walk it alone. It is not fun going through change alone.
I don't think we can.
I think you can.
Okay.
I think that it's going to be a way smaller amount of change. It's going to be
wait a second. You've always surrounded yourself with a big community. Not a big community, but a community of friends. So you haven't been alone. So once again, Chris Oneth is right.
No, not always. Did you know me 25 years ago?
No, that's true.
Exactly.
But you weren't changed 25 years ago.
I was changing. I was in
there
the
you
process.
go. And so are we all.
Yes.
So,
and I continue, right? We all continue to change. It's
until
not a
the day we get to paradise.
It's not a one and done thing.
Right.
And so you want to change. We could swap out change with sanctification.
So one last thought on that, because you bring up a very good point. What people will do is they'll change, and they will. Mm-hmm. And then something happens, and then they believe the lie that they haven't changed.
Yeah.
So all that is, to me, what I tell clients is, all that is, you've changed at one level, and that is awesome. Mm-hmm. Now you're getting to deeper levels, right?
Because there's definitely levels.
And it's going to feel like, oh my gosh, I've totally fallen backwards and all this. Not necessarily. You're just being worked at a deeper level, which is even more solid.
It's just like Shrek said, we're onions. There's layers.
Shrek didn't say that.
Shrek said that,
It
and then
all
Donkey
comes back to Shrek.
And Donkey corrected him and said, "Why can't we be more like parfaits, man? Parfaits are delicious."
That is stolen from my youth pastor. Anyway.
He stole it from Shrek.
No.
All right. Well, I hope that we have convinced everybody to work on change.
Yay.
But that it's not easy, it's hard. And so
Absolutely.
Stay tuned next time.
And it's awesome.
I think we're going to talk about safety.
Hopefully.
That's our plan.
Okay, if we make it here safe next time.
Yeah, there you go. Later, guys.
Thanks for joining us today as we continue our journey talking about life's many questions.
To stay connected with us, you can follow us at Downey Park Counseling on both Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow Caroline on Instagram at Relatable Caroline. And make sure you tune in next week for our next question.